just spotted some deer. I'm not sure if you can see them, they're just over here. Oh, it's a mother and 2 baby deer, 2 Bambi. Run 7. So let me quickly show you what I'm working on. In addition to my 4/4 nose breathing, I'm working on just hitting my 176 beats per minute, or like strides per minute. So it's sort of quite short and sharp. But what I'm trying to do here with the legs is basically pull the leg up underneath and balance myself. So it's up underneath, foot hanging down, and just basically cycling through from one to the next. That's essentially what the goal is, but easy, dumb when you're doing it slowly and just demonstrating one leg and then the other, but trying to link it all together is the challenge, so that's what I'm working on today.
Okay, so since my last video, I discovered by watching, I think it might have been Rich Roll's podcast, that Tony Riddle and his barefoot running workshop, he mentioned about Nicolas Romanov and the pose method. So I started reading up on this. I bought the book. I'll put a shot of that up on the screen, and started looking into the pose method, which essentially is quite similar to what I've been practicing in my runs, but there's a lot more that I discovered in the pose method which helped me. So I'm going to be focusing on trying to work on the pose method, and let me quickly describe to you here what that actually entails. So here we're out and I'm standing in a stationary position, about to start falling forward off support. So if you imagine this yellow arrow is gravity. At this point, gravity is working on my body, pressing down through here, so everything's in alignment. So head, shoulders, hips, feet all stacked, so weight is probably in my forefoot here, sort of under the balls of the foot, probably very lightly in the heel, but most of the weight is probably around about here. And if I started leaning forward, see, it moves forward with me until my center of gravity is actually moved off this, what is now the trailing leg, off support. And we've now moved into what Dr. Nicolas Romanov calls falling, or the following phase. So there's essentially 3 phases. Support, in this case, I'm just standing stationary. If I was coming from a previous stride, you would see my trailing leg, the knee would be out here in front, trailing foot would be just pointing straight down, relaxed, and there'd be a more obvious running pose that I'd be moving off from the previous stride. In this case, because I'm just stationary, you're not seeing that. So center of gravity moves forward into the pulling phase. Essentially, we are pulling the rear leg off the ground. So Dr. Romanov developed this technique in the 70s when he wanted to look at and see if there was an actually scientific method to running. So he started studying elite athletes and drawings in history, Leonardo da Vinci, and how they ran and what were the key elements. And he came up with this method, seeing how people moved, that gravity is the key element to this whole process. So it's how gravity is acting on our bodies and using gravity as the method of gaining momentum. So instead of just using our muscles as the way to propel ourselves, he observed that if we used gravity, we'd be a lot more efficient, and gravity is what pulls us forward as opposed to our muscles. So gravity is pulling us forward and down. In this case, we probably want to be coming from the hips. So pulling forward and down, and then we're cycling the legs underneath. And that's essentially, people have previously talked about or mentioned running is a series of falls or hops. So this is what is known as the running pose. So Dr. Romanov observed also that every sport has a pose that is synonymous with that sport. So in running, that would be this pose here. Now, depending how fast you're running, this trailing leg will be down low, doing small circles. Or if we're running much faster, sprinting or doing speed work, that will be higher up towards the butt. So if we imagine we have a circle here, so we're doing small pulls here, doing slowly. Start running faster, we'll have bigger pulls, and you'll observe that shortly when I practice some higher pull cycles as well. And in that case, you're just cycling that trailing leg up onto the butt, back through pose, falling, and into the pull phase. So in this case, we're moving in through support into falling, trailing legs getting pulled from support, and we cycle through a small circle. So we just quickly move all this out of the way a moment. So in this case, we're doing small circles, just nice and low pulls. If you try to do high pulls the whole time, I've been practicing high pulls, you'll see in a moment, it's very tiring. So when you're learning this method, it feels very mechanical, just determined to work on being able to run injury free, and so as a result I'm happy to be able to just strip my running right back to basics and build it up piece by piece. Once I start running faster and you start to see higher pulls, you'll be able to see these poses more obviously. So from one person to another, like a weekend jogger versus like an elite athlete, everyone will go through these various poses. For some, you can observe them more clearly than others. For example, Usain Bolt or Michael Johnson, 400 meter and 200 meter athlete. He had a very upright style, and obviously was both Usain and Michael Johnson were oblivious to the pose method, but both of them pretty much were following that pose method of how they ran. So they were very efficient in their movement, and obviously they were very successful as a result. So here the key thing Dr. Romanov talks about is don't worry about this front leg landing on the ground. Gravity will pull you forward and down. Yellow arrow is gravity, so gravity will pull us forward and down. Front leg will just get pulled back to the ground. All we need to worry about is this trailing leg getting pulled from support. Here we're currently doing small pulls, so if you imagine a small circle, pose, fall, pull. Small pulls because we're moving slowly, and you can see here I'm going to start cycling up into bigger pulls. When we start doing bigger pulls, you can see the leg that's been pulled from support is going to get kicked up underneath the butt into pose. And here we are obviously starting to do bigger cycles. Now I'm only practicing these bigger pulls just for practicing that motion. Bigger pulls are only necessary when you're running faster. So center of gravity is in towards the body. We're moving slowly, so we'd be only doing small circles, small pulls. As we start to move faster, we're doing speed work or sprinting, angle of attack towards the ground or angle, we're leaning into the ground, and obviously increasing the effect of gravity. As we lean further forward, we fall faster and ultimately start moving faster, and then we'll be required to do bigger pulls. And all the time we're maintaining that 176 to 182 optimal strides per minute or cadence. Okay, moving off through pose. This leg is in support, it's the foot on the ground. Off support into falling. Trailing leg getting pulled from the ground. Boom, and cycle up underneath the body into pose. So there are certain things that I'm doing in my current technique here which are inefficient. Obviously I'm still learning this method at this point. So this lead leg, for example, I can show you probably a more obvious one. I'm likely overstriding. You can see my ankle here is sitting a little forward of my knee. So I'm probably overstriding a little. So that's something I certainly need to continue to work on. Equally with this trailing leg, I'm coming around the houses. So I'm coming all the way back around here to this point. Instead of, I can move straight from the ground straight into pose directly like the arrow is showing, instead of cycling around. You can see, for example, in this stride here, I'm actually kicking up onto the butt. So this knee is pointing down instead of pointing out. So essentially I should really be aiming to be arriving at this position here more quickly. So moving the foot straight into this position here, not driving the knee, but driving the hamstrings. And this foot dangling down is just basically relaxed. So you can see here I was more doing butt kicks, which is not efficient. I should be aiming to move straight to this position here. So that's what I need to work on. So coming through support, pull, and essentially here I want to move straight to pose and not to come around the houses. Okay, so I think that's enough of a description of the pose method for this video. I'm obviously going to continue working on this in subsequent videos, and let me know if you find this helpful. I was struggling to think of the best way to describe this method to you. Hopefully all these arrows and circles have not confused matters, but yeah, hope you find this useful. Let me know in the comments, and yeah, I will see you in the next one.
I've just spotted some deer. I'm not sure if you can see them, they're just over here. Oh, it's a mother and two baby deer, two Bambi. Oh, amazing. Oh, there they go.